Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you to our speakers, my fellow moderators, and of course, our sponsors underwriting this summit and allowing us to bring you this great content. My name is Chris Paley, editor at Redmond Mag, and I am here to moderate the second session of our 2025 AI Trends Watch Summit called Top IT Applications for AI Technology in 2025. Our speaker for this session is Howard Cohen. Howard is a 40-plus year executive veteran of the information technology industry who today writes for and about the IT channel. He's a frequent speaker at IT industry events that include Microsoft Inspire, Citrix Synergy Summit, ConnectWise, IT Nation, Channel Pro Forums, Cloud Partner Summit, MicroCorp One-on-One, and CompTIA Channel Conf. He also frequently hosts and presents webinars for many vendors and publications. Take it away, Howard.
Thank you very much, Chris, and hello, everybody. Welcome to Top Applications for AI Technology in 2025. As Chris mentioned, I am a creator of compelling content. I write for and about the channel. He listed many of the different companies and partners that I write for. If you'd like to sample my writing, the most easy way possible is to check out the QR code at the bottom there, which will take you to techchannel.substack.com, which is my regular newsletter. It's a free subscription, and I share a lot of thoughts like I'm doing here in writing there. So that's me. Let us move on. I was fascinated in the last presentation to listen to Brian talk about, particularly about agents and about Copilot. Anybody who attended this year's Microsoft Ignite conference will know that Microsoft has no intention of seeing anybody fail to renew their Copilot licenses. They are big on Copilot, and they've introduced Copilot Studio, which is expressly designed to help you create your own AI agents. We'll be talking a lot about that in this presentation. To set the frame for this presentation, one of the things I'm writing lately is a column in Pure AI magazine called Practical AI. I launched it because a lot of people complain to me that the only thing they see in AI is that it can write emails for you, which you could do yourself. And it can make prettier pictures or more rugged looking pictures of you if you want that kind of thing. Obviously, that is just, it's not even the tip of the iceberg. It's just icing on the cake. The cake itself is much bigger, much broader. And I really wanted to highlight practical applications. And as it happens, looking at agentic AI will change the way you look at AI and practical applications. But more on that as we proceed through my presentation. Those of you who have been with me before, and I know a few of our frequent flyers are out there today, know that I like to start every session with a word of the day, and preferably with a friendly group of people like these folks. The word of the day today is interact. Interact. These people are happily interacting, telling each other jokes while they sip coffee and have a great time. And it's fantastic. The more time we spend doing that, the happier we are. The fact is, we've long been interacting with software too. Looks a little different. Looks a little more like this. We're used to having a menu in front of us, and we can point and click on the things we need to do. So let's say we want to send somebody a quote. We go to the far right of the menu there and click quote. Let's say we want to see some more information about some of our contacts. We go to the left side and click on contacts. Whatever we want to do, there's a place to click. What we're seeing in AI today goes way beyond redefining what computers can do. And it actually redefines the way in which we're going to be interacting with digital devices. In the future, you could see yourself getting involved and working directly with an agent, an artificial intelligence agent, on construction work or development work, design work. Now, there are probably many of you out there who are saying, well, wait a minute, Cohen, that's not new. We've been doing that for years and years and years, way back to the 1960s. And yes, there was danger, Will Robinson, but it's even greater today than it was back then. And today we are fulfilling Will Robinson's dream of being able to talk with and interact with our digital devices on a conversational basis. At the recent Ignite conference, Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella suggested to us that AI agents will become the primary way we interact with computers in the future, understanding our needs and proactively helping us. And as a matter of fact, it was the core theme of his keynote presentation. Here he is on stage at Ignite talking about how to build an agentic world. So welcome, my friends, to the agentic world. There will be personal agents. Nadella talked about his favorite personal agent, which is running in Copilot for Microsoft 365. And it's running particularly in Outlook, where it looks at his inbox all the time. And when he sits down to his inbox, it tells him which emails he should be looking at first based on who sent them, but also the content of the emails and how aligned it is with the things he usually looks at first. So it's come to understand him and know him. And when we say personal agent, it's truly getting very personal. It's understanding his preferences. There will be organizational agents that do things autonomously for the organization on a regular basis. For those of you who are tasked with kicking out reports for senior executives, there'll be an agent for that will just simply create those reports on a timely basis without any intervention from you or anybody else. There'll be business process agents that take over whole sections of what we see applications doing today. And there will be cross-organizational agents that speak not only to people within your company, but also to people in the company and to systems in the companies that you work with. So Nadella was very excited about the agentic world, and I indeed share his enthusiasm because it represents a dramatic departure from the way we've looked at AI technology and technology in general before. Now, just to catch us up, we are now at the third of 3 stages of artificial intelligence. The first of those stages was predictive artificial intelligence. By predictive, what do I mean? It could look at things that it knew, information that it had, and it could forecast what was going to happen next. One example that I personally got involved with back in 2017, I was writing about Magellan, which was an AI engine offered up by OpenText, and they had it providing a recommender engine. That is, it took the database of customers that a company sold to and the database of products that a company sold, and it ran them against each other in such a way that it figured out, based on everything it knew about the customers, which of the products would be most interesting to each customer individually. And actually, it even then sent out marketing information to those folks and notified the salespeople to go follow up on that. So it took away a lot of the extra work, a lot of the manual labor that a salesperson had to do, and freed them up to spend more time selling, which is what we really want them doing. So that's 7 years ago. More recently, you've all heard of GPT 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 12, 15, 1,000, generative AI. And the difference with generative AI was that it could create new content from existing content. Many people have said that, generative AI can't create anything. It's all derivative, and I happen to agree with that. It looks at what it has available to it, and it recombines it into new and interesting ways. And that's where we see these emails that it writes for us. And we see these wonderful pictures of us in fanciful environments and all the other crazy things people are doing with it. There's much more available from generative AI, but that's really what people have seen most. Now, however, we're moving forward and we're getting into agentic AI. And let me just quickly review the three so we can point out the differences. Predictive AI, as I said, basically used statistical analysis and machine learning to take the information it had. It would identify patterns, anticipate behaviors, and forecast upcoming events. That's what it was there for. And you could predict future outcomes. More often than not, they were actually correct. They were accurate. So that was very valuable. And then we moved on to generative AI. And with generative AI, we could create content. You know, I heard Brian talking about deep fakes and so forth. And yeah, unfortunately, you know, humans being humans, we found really negative ways to use some very positive technology. But it uses machine learning models to create new content from existing data, as we said. So now let's talk about Agentic. Agentic marks a very exciting difference, a new improvement. It basically ingests vast amounts of data from multiple sources. And it can then independently, and in many cases, autonomously, all by itself, it can analyze, determine challenges, develop strategies. And here's the most important part. It can go ahead and execute tasks. So in a supply chain, I'm glad it uses this quote uses a supply chain example. It can not only look at what's going on in the supply chain and maybe where things are delayed, it can also determine and go ahead and change the shipping method and have the products being shipped a whole other way. It can move things from one queue to another queue. It can take action, it can notify people, it can do whatever it has to do to make the changes it identifies as necessary. So that in and of itself, the fact that it can take action, is a huge change in agentic AI. So what do the big boys say? Well, I'm often given to quoting Forrester, and here we are again. They call agentic AI one of the top 10 emerging technologies this past year. So as you can imagine, now that we're going into 2025, it's already got tremendous momentum going in. And if you're going to quote Forrester, you kind of have to quote Gartner too. And Gartner tells us that within the next 3 years, fully a third of enterprise software will be incorporating agentic AI. You'll see applications in which there are multitasking agents working together to complete complex tasks. By the way, that's already possible. 1 out of 5 digital storefronts will be conducted by AI agents. They'll be doing the selling. You will buy stuff from an agent very, very soon, if you haven't already. And here's the one that should shake you up a little bit, and that is that 15% of day-to-day decisions, they're going to be made autonomously by AI agents, which will fundamentally reshape the whole decision-making process. We're going to defer to agents on a lot of the decisions we usually have to make ourselves day in and day out. Therein, again, a complete paradigm shift in the way we interact with digital devices. Okay, so that's some of the big guys. Here's a somewhat smaller guy that I personally think will become extremely big over the next year or two. And this is Clement Delon. He is the Chief Executive Officer of Hugging Face. Wonderful name for a company. Named after the hugging face emoji, which you'll be seeing shortly. And he basically says that machine learning, it's becoming the new way to build technology. replacing software. He sees this movement replacing software. It won't be software the way we have traditionally thought about it anymore. It will not be millions of lines of code. As he says here, it's going to start to do that for us, and it's going to do it much better and much faster. Now, here's another shameless plug. For those of you who read Application Development Trends magazine, I have a column there too called The Citizen Developer. And recently, we've been talking about the shift from citizen developer to citizen AI. Instead of moving tiles around a screen to create new applications, you'll simply be talking to your agent, your AI agent, and saying, okay, I need to automate this routine. It has to do this, it needs to take in this data, and it needs to come out with this result. And it will go ahead and create that for you. And then you can create another one, and you can connect the two, and you connect another, connect another, connect another. This already suggests a way in which we'll be building routines that doesn't resemble what we've ever done before. And so I'll be talking a little bit more about Hugging Face shortly. They're going to play a very important role, they and companies like them. Another face that might be more familiar to some of you is this one. This, of course, is the CEO of OpenAI. Then he wasn't. Now he is again. Sam Altman. And Sam Altman is much more direct about it. To him, agentic AI will be in our daily lives in 2025. This, to him, is the year of agentic AI. So when we talk about new applications for AI technology, agents are the premier new application of AI technology. And here's how we're going to be interfacing with them. A little bit about the characteristics of what an AI agent really is. It's autonomous. That means it can do stuff on its own. Once you set it up, it just goes ahead. And it communicates with you, so you can intervene if you need to. You can communicate with it. You can change its instructions if you need to. But it basically can do things without your oversight. It doesn't need direct human supervision of any kind. That means that you can set it, and to some degree, you can forget it. It is able to perform reasoning. It is capable of reasoning. That means it can do decision-making based on the context of the information it's dealing with. Not just the information itself, not just a go, no-go kind of decision, not just zeros and ones. It's more than digital. It's analog in a very real way. It can make shades of meaning decisions. And that's completely different. And that is the true definition of artificial intelligence. It's moving us one step closer to artificial general intelligence, where it gets much closer to what humans can do. It also enjoys reinforced learning. That is to say, as it does things, as it has interactions with humans, with other data entities, it can evolve, it can teach itself, it can learn and grow, and it can receive feedback and incorporate that feedback into what it does going ahead. And it is capable of understanding normal language. You know, we're all used to NLP, natural language processing. It's been around for a while. And it can comprehend and follow complex instructions. For those of you who would like to see a demo of that, it's actually available to you now, as long as you have a Microsoft account. It doesn't have to be anything special, just a Microsoft account. If you run Edge, the Edge browser, which of course is built on the Chromium engine, so it's just like Chrome. But Edge has in the upper right-hand corner an icon you can click to introduce you to Copilot. And when Copilot comes up, you get a nice rich tone coming through your speakers, And at the bottom, there's a place you can type, but there's also an icon for a microphone. Click that microphone, and Copilot will say hello to you in the voice of your choice, and you can have a conversation with it. You can ask it anything you want to ask it. It will come back to you with answers. And let me tell you, those answers are extremely conversational, frightening. I've often felt like Copilot has a bit of an attitude of superiority, like she knows more than you do, and she wants you to know it. But you come back and tell me what your experience has been. They can comprehend and follow complex instructions, and they can interpret and they can respond. And of course, they are capable of workflow optimization. That is, they can execute multi-step processes. It's not just a command and go. They can do multiple things, and they can connect to others, and they can cooperate in many, many ways. A few more characteristics. They're goal-oriented. Just like you tell a project manager, we need to get this done by this date, you can tell your agent, I need to get this accomplished by this date, and they will work toward your targets. They will work to accomplish what it is you ask them to do, whether it's operational optimization, boosting sales, or improving customer service. We'll explore all of those in a little while. They are capable of learning and adaptation. That is, they get better at their job over time. We talked about this, just a moment ago. They improve their performance. They grow. So that's very organic. And again, moving closer and closer to the human definition of intelligence. Of course, we probably all know people who never learn a damn thing, but these agents continuously learn and grow based on what they're doing, based on what they're encountering. And they do so to improve their performance. So an agent you start with will not be nearly as proficient as it will be a few months, a year down the line, when it's had a chance to do some stuff and do some practicing and do some learning. Think about your digital devices as learning machines. And they can also be proactive. Okay, we talked earlier, Brian talked earlier about large language models. And indeed, you need large language models. These are the bodies of information that agents work with, okay? In the early days of AI, we connected everything to the internet, and we saw a slew of lawsuits from people who felt that their trademarks and their copyrights were infringed upon. As a matter of fact, I believe it's Canada that is suing a wide variety of news outlets for offending their trademarks. So very important to not just give free, willy-nilly run of the internet to our agents, but rather to give them well-defined bodies of information in the form of large language models. These systems can identify opportunities and potential issues before they arise. They can predict. They can look ahead and say, this may happen. You should be worried about this. Try and imagine in a data center, your AI agent saying, hey, listen, it looks like somebody's trying to attack this system. You might want to take a look at the logs over there. That's amazing, right? In more immediate context, just yesterday, Google announced a new system that can predict the weather accurately for 15 days in advance. Now, we're used to 7-day forecasts on TV. Soon, you're going to see a fortnight, 2 weeks, actually 15 days, because this AI, this agent, can predict the weather 15 days ahead. That's going to make huge changes in the way we manage things like shipping and receiving, ground transportation, emergency management. There's just implications for all kinds of systems from the fact that these things can be as proactive as they can be. So again, more of the characteristics of agentic AI. To give a brief comparison, this TechTarget um, table, which I found very useful, compares and contrasts agentic versus generative. We're all very familiar with generative now. Since GPT emerged, everybody knows what generative means. The main purpose of generative was to create content based on data that it was trained on and in response to user prompts. Well, agentic AI doesn't wait for any of that. It takes autonomous action and it makes decisions. And not only does it make the decisions, it takes action on those decisions. In the terms of autonomously, yeah, agentic AI is fully autonomous, whereas generative AI really isn't. It really reacts to your input and it has no idea about what setting goals means. Agentic AI is adaptable to, its behavior is adaptable in response to what it sees and what happens. It's measuring things like weather and other real world activity, power utilization, you name it. If it can get data on it, it can react to it and it can take action to improve the situation. There's some adaptability built into generative AI, but it's not independent. It can't just make adaptations. It can inform you. In terms of goal setting, yeah, agentic AI sets goals and works to meet them. That doesn't exist in the environment in generative AI. And as far as human oversight goes, you're going to be very, very close to your generative AI. It's going to need a lot from you. Whereas agentic, once you tell it what you need done, you shouldn't have to come back unless it says to you, I've run into something I don't understand. So big differences between what we've seen in generative AI and what we're seeing now as we go forward with agentic AI. So how do you develop your AI agent? Let me first say that you will see tools. I mentioned one earlier, Copilot Studio has been introduced by Microsoft as their entry into the develop your own agents market. You will see similar kinds of entries from, obviously from Google, from Anthropic, from OpenAI. There'll be plenty of them, and they'll help you. But there is already a fairly well-known cycle of development around agents. And it begins as any other software activity begins by defining the objective. What is it you want to do? What is it you want to accomplish? Okay, once you know what you want to accomplish, well, that's true. We've been doing that since COBOL and Fortran. And we'll continue because that is what it's all about. It's about achieving an objective. So we have to define what it is we want to achieve. You'll then choose an agent type, and there are several different types. There's simple reflex agents that will simply do something based on something happening. There are model-based agents that are connected to the large and small language models and work with those huge bodies of data. Some of them have retrieval augmented generation, RAG. They can reach out to other data entities and pull in more data. Many of them are goal-based agents, utility-based agents that are just doing a job. Yeah, there are low-class agents and there are high-class agents. There are blue-collar agents and white-collar agents. And there are learning agents, which are there to collect information for you. Once you've chosen your agent, you're going to train your model. To be able to train your model, you need to acquire and prepare the data that that model will be trained on. You then are going to select your model. And there are many models to select from. There is a huge world of large language models that are already out there, foundational models that are out there. Developers that I'm speaking to are telling me that you don't want to try to train your own large language model. It's a very expensive and very time-consuming activity. It takes huge amounts of money, huge amounts of time. You are far better served to identify a model, an existing model, that comes close to your application, has the information you very much need, and has the ability through RAG to reach out to other data entities and pull more data in to get you closer to what you need for your specific application. So instead of starting from scratch, start with an existing model and pull in some more. Now on the screen at the next to last level, you'll see OpenAI is there. Below that is Google Cloud. Microsoft is there. We see Anthropic. There's a lot of names we've seen in the trade press, and a lot of names you probably haven't seen. If we go up to the next level where we see frameworks, those are actually tools that we'll be using to help train models. So all of these things are out there. You really need to make decisions as to which you're going to use yourself and which you're going to engage professional help with, because there are going to be some things that are simply not practical, not economically feasible for you to do yourself. Now, this may change next year. It may change a few years from now. We've certainly seen that curve before. But for the time being, know that there's a lot of activity out there. There are a lot of products out there, which means you've got to be a lot more cautious in selecting which products you want to be using for your specific application. So let's complete the cycle. We talked about models, and before we go any further, I should probably read your minds again. And some of you are thinking, well, how the heck do you go about finding the right model? How does one go and shop for models, for large language models? How do you do that? How do you compare and contrast them? How do you figure out what's better about one than another? And that's a great question that actually has some answers already. And I suspect that this year we will see several more emerge. But one that we've mentioned already, you may recognize the emoji, hugging face. That's the hugging face emoji. And this is the homepage of huggingface.co. Here, you can see catalogs of models and frameworks and data sets and tools and applications. And you can compare and contrast and figure out which ones you want to work with, which ones have the features you need, so forth and so on. You can enlist some help along the way. A lot of great functionality here in huggingface.co. I believe it's among the first of what we will see becoming a burgeoning number of such resources that will make it very easy for you to start to choose which tools you most want to work with. So now that you've done that, now that you've chosen your model, you're using RAG to pull in more data, it's time to develop the agent to do exactly what you want to do. And then you get into fine-tuning, implementing learning and adaptation. That is, put it out in the field, make it work, and then fine-tune it specifically to your application. And the interesting thing, I mentioned before that developers are telling me you should start with an existing model. They've also explained to me that, and this I found fascinating, it's not so much a function of telling your model what to do by way of your agent. It's not so much telling it what to do. It's actually limiting it from doing everything else. That is to say, you're going to tell the model what not to do. You're going to tell it what instructions from a user it's not to respond to, because you want it to stay focused on the objective that you started with. So it's a reductive kind of a process, which is very different from what we're most accustomed to. So again, you're going to have to be thinking differently. This is a whole new paradigm of computing, and it doesn't resemble anything we've done before, which is exciting, challenging, but it's the way it is. Okay, so we've seen some insight into how we develop an agent. We've come to understand what AI agents are and what they're capable of doing functionally. But we really haven't talked about practical application. And as the writer of Practical AI, that's kind of where I started, and that's where I'm going to continue. When I first started writing Practical AI, I was thinking about how applications will change. Nowadays, I'm thinking much more about how applications themselves will be replaced. Just the way DeLong said that we're going to replace software with other kinds of technology. I feel the same way. And here are some ways now in which that's actually been happening. Let's examine some agentic use cases that are already in existence. And by the way, through these slides, you're going to see this robot show up over and over again. He is meant to, he or she is meant to represent the agent, which is an easier way, I think, for these photographers to come up with it. But anyway, business operations. We're going to be assigning AI agents to take care of very specific business operations, very specific functions, very specific workflows. We don't have to build a single application to do everything. We can simply build an agent to do some things, and another agent to do others, and another agent to do others, and they can all communicate with each other. To me, as a programmer, the advantage is that this is all much more loosely coupled than traditional code has ever been, with the possible exception of microservices running in containers. But this is very loosely coupled, and it's very easy to make changes in the way things work. So business operations is one thing that has already enjoyed some agentic treatment. You heard me mention customer service before. Some of you in the IT industry, I'll just use one example. One practical example that I've already highlighted in Practical AI is Crushbank. Crushbank was in the same business as many of you. For many years, they were an IT provider. They took their knowledge and their experience and they put it all into an AI agent. Some of our companies, some of our IT providers now have their help desk phone answered by that AI agent. Customer calls, the agent answers, "Hi, how are you? What can I do for you today?" They have a friendly conversation and the agent solves their problem. Similarly, you can take that agent out with you if you're a field service technician. And when you run into something and you need to consult some documentation, the agent will provide that documentation. It has instantaneous access to it. And it can even suggest to you some ways you might approach troubleshooting. If you're a ConnectWise customer, you can probably gain access to Crushbank's technology very easily. That's one good way to do it. So agentic customer service is here. You will be talking to what you think is a human, but it's just a very friendly AI. Here's another one that I have a personal preference for, agentic healthcare. I spent some time in the hospital this year, unfortunately. But the one thing I can tell you was most miserable was when I pushed the button to call for help and waited and waited and waited and waited and waited. Imagine having an agentic nurse right there in the room with you, ready at any time to help you, to solve your problem for you, to get you medication, to take your blood pressure, take your temperature, what have you. It's happening now, and it's only going to get better over the next couple of years. But we're already seeing immediate patient help applications of AI agents starting to take shape. Before we leave the concept of healthcare, we should also talk about agentic medical breakthroughs. There have been many stories recently about cures for things that we never thought could be cured that are being developed far faster because an AI agent can consult huge bodies of information and research at insane speed and develop concepts faster than human experts ever possibly could. So now those human experts are working hand in hand, literally, as we see here, um, with these AI agents to develop vaccines, medications, cures. Um, the way in which we live our lives and the duration of our lives may very well be redefined completely thanks to AI agents in just the next few years. Getting a little closer to home for IT folks, there's agentic software development. Yeah, I mentioned this earlier to my readers of the Citizen Developer. You're now going to be a Citizen AI user. You're going to have an agent that you work with, and you're going to tell that agent, hey, listen, I need software developed that will do the following things. And it will just develop it right then and there, and very quickly, and very effectively. No longer will we have to find somebody who's willing to stay up nights all bug-eyed and strung out on caffeine to get code developed. Um, AI agents need no caffeine, but they will develop the software. So imagine being able to describe your need and have it realized right then and there. And of course, you can interact with it if it doesn't exactly do what you thought you wanted, but maybe it helped you realize, oh, I also need this. I also need. You've never experienced that, right? So there is another application of AI agents. In human resources, the obvious applications in human resources are employees being able to simply ask an assistant, how many vacation days do I have left? Am I eligible for this kind of coverage under our health plan? Those things are easy. They don't have to call a person. They can simply summon up their agent, and the agent will answer those questions happily. Recruiting folks are using AI agents to do two things that are very, very important. If any of you have ever sat in front of a stack of resumes while you're recruiting somebody new, you know just how time consuming and painful it can be to review dozens or hundreds of applications, one after another, until your eyes go buggy. An AI agent can do that for you. You can tell it what you're looking for. It doesn't have to find the specific keywords you're looking for because agents don't work on keywords. They work on key concepts. So if you say that you want to see somebody who's been a programmer, it will find things like developer, software, any word that relates to developer, and it will consider those as a possible candidate for you to look at. In addition, first interview. You can have a very friendly AI-generated agent, just like this guy, do your first interview with candidates like the guy on the right here who failed to wear a tie. So that you don't have to go through the first round interviews. They can come back, report what they've heard, compare it to what you described as what you want, in context, with shades of meaning understanding, and really converse with you about which applicants they thought might best fit the need for this position. Moving to the world of finance, the big one is fraud detection. There are many things that go on in financial transactions that can be identified as patterns that may be leading up to potential fraud. It's very much like looking at the logs that come in through your data center and seeing patterns that may represent an oncoming attack. Here we are, these transactions were done, they all relate to each other in these ways, and I see a pattern emerging here that may indicate potential fraud. Doesn't have to be you looking for that. Your agent can look for that. and it can look through far more records, thousands of times more records, at much faster speeds with much greater accuracy than you ever possibly could, and detect considerably more fraud than you could ever possibly know. So again, an opportunity to redefine the financial markets by reducing the actual amount of fraud that successfully is committed. Similarly, financial management. You can have your agent assess the market, assess stocks that are available, assess bonds, assess all kinds of financial instruments, and determine which ones may best fulfill your financial goals and financial objectives for a particular portfolio. So yeah, automated portfolio management, no problem for an AI agent. And again, if it takes away all the scut work that a financial advisor has to do, it frees up that financial advisor to do much more valuable work for his or her clients. So we see a lot of that emerging now too. Getting back to the digital world, there is agentic cybersecurity. This is the one that most IT people are very familiar with because they are the victims of having to review endless traffic logs on networks to see if patterns are emerging that indicate an oncoming attack. It's painstaking work. It's very difficult work. It's very error-prone work. It's very easy to miss things. It's very frustrating work. Good news, you won't have to do it anymore. Agents can be scanning your traffic live as it's happening on the network. They can be comparing it to recently emerged signatures and patterns. They can identify from data that comes in from data feeds from around the world of known exploits that are happening elsewhere. They can do all the work that needs to be done to create an effective approach to cybersecurity deterrence. And so even there, we're going to see things like ransomware, et cetera, be tremendously challenged, not by people being more expert, but by AI agents learning what those experts know. And so and there's one more that people ask me about all the time that I should mention. I should have had a slide for it, and that is autonomous vehicles. Autonomous vehicles are also run by agents. These are agents that observe what's happening around them, observe the traffic signals, observe the traffic signs, observe lane positioning, oncoming traffic, and make decisions as to whether or not to make that left turn right now or not. Personally, I recently drove up next to an autonomous vehicle, scared the wits out of me. I'm not comfortable driving next to an automobile that has no driver, but that's me. Okay, all of that, I'll just take you back to 2007 one last time, and you may remember this ad. There's an app for that. Kind of faded away over the last couple of years, but this was the big thing. When apps first emerged, everybody was so excited. You could just click a button on your phone and get a new app. Well, that was yesterday. Tomorrow, there may still be an app for that, but more important, there's an agent for that. And it's a really exciting time to be working with AI. So thank you all for your kind attention. I really do appreciate it. And Chris, do we have any questions?
We do. Good stuff, Howard. I'm also scared of the robots driving the cars, so I'm with you on that. Let's jump in right away with this one. What is the difference between an agent and a model?
The difference between an agent and a model. An agent is something that observes and acts. A model is a repository of enormous amounts of data that you can interact with, or an agent can interact with. It's basically, if you think of the agent as the processor in your brain, you can think of the model as your memory and all the information you have stored in your brain.
Okay, great. John has a great question. Do you have advice for spotting vendor AI washing from services and products that are constantly pitched to us?
I'm sorry, repeat that so I'm sure I got it.
Do you have advice for spotting vendor AI washing from the services and products that are constantly pitched to us?
No, I actually don't. And I suspect that a month ago, 2 months ago, I might have said yes, because there was so much of a mechanical quality to the way in which AIs were doing things. But I mentioned earlier, click that Copilot icon on the Edge browser and have a conversation with her or him. And you'll see what I mean. It's almost impossible to determine whether you're speaking to a human or speaking. Somebody sent me a recording of a podcast, and he showed me how he had requested that podcast to be produced. He had actually given a prompt to an AI agent, and the AI agent produced the entire podcast featuring two people, two guys, happily bantering with each other, making jokes with each other, and discussing the topic. And it was completely AI generated. You couldn't tell by me. That was amazing to me. That's why I say we're entering a whole new stage. And it's exciting and frightening both at the same time.
Agreed. Let's end it with this great question. How do you choose which AI to use from Copilot, Gemini, Claude, Bard, ChatGPT, and all the others?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think there are two approaches to that. There's the approach that a lot of people take, doing tons of research into each of the different models from each of the different companies. You know, what's coming from Google, what's coming from Anthropic, what's coming from OpenAI, what's coming from Microsoft, and trying to determine from your research which one makes the most sense for you. There is, of course, what I like to call the approach that I tend to take. I like to call it the spoiled brat approach. I tend to go out there and try everything and play with it and see how they differ from each other. I'm blessed with the time to do that because it's part of what I do for a living. Not everybody has that capability. I do think that resources like Hugging Face and GitHub really are the beginnings of marketplaces you can turn to that will give you more information in one place that compares and contrasts the different engines, the different models, the LLMs, and the different agent generators that will be coming onto the market like crazy over the next few months.
Okay, great. Looks like that's all the time we have questions. Thanks again, Howard, for the great talk.
My pleasure, Chris. Thank you.